Welcome to the Film Club Podcast.
Yeah, welcome to the Film Club Podcast. I'm S.
I'm Jared.
And yeah, we're here to talk about some gear. Talk about some equipment. And what's the main question for today is...
The favorite question that everybody loves to talk about: does film matter as a film? Does gear matter as a filmmaker?
What's your take on it?
I sit right on the line. I think most people do. Sit right on the line of just like, it does matter when you know how to use it. It doesn't matter if you don't know how to use it. But I think the natural growth of any filmmaker or photographer or creative is to get better gear, maybe just more gear. You need lights, you need audio, you need lenses, you need bodies, stuff like that. So I personally think gear does matter.
I think it matters. I definitely think it matters because, like, well, I guess, yeah, I'm on the fence too, because if, like, first of all, you need gear in order to shoot a video, right? But you need good equipment as well. But then again, you don't really need, like, you just need the right gear for what you need. For me, I shoot Sony, and so I could definitely get a Canon camera and shoot something and be just as good. All I got to do is just take a little bit of time to learn the menu system and find out, you know, what its quirks are, because everything is like, you know, if on Sony you shoot this and then you lose that, and then same thing with Canon, and I just got to figure out what those are. I can get away with shooting something like that.
Yeah, and I think that's where gear kind of is at the moment. It's kind of like Canon was like the camera to have for such a long time. I don't know anybody who didn't start on camera. Or Canon.
Yeah, I started on Canon.
Yeah, I did too. I had the Rebel. It's actually sitting up there right now. That's the first camera I ever bought. A lot of it is interpreting when gear matters, how to use it. Because like you were saying a while ago, one of the mistakes you made before was not understanding your settings. That's like the most pivotal thing. And I think we've all seen the videos from Full-Time Filmmaker where they give a pro like an iPhone or a cheap camera, and then they give like a new, basically a red camera.
Yeah.
And like the professional always looks better because he knows how to light, he understands the settings and stuff. And so I think it's like, when you're talking about if gear matters, I think that's like a big thing. Is like, do you even know how to use your camera?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, see, yeah, and so like I was just about to say, like, going back on what you said, like about like gear matters, like having the right gear for the right job. That's what matters. And so, my girlfriend would attest I spend a lot of money on equipment.
I can attest to that he spends a lot of money.
And I know your wife reminds me all the time as well that you spend a lot of money on gear because
Not
of me.
near as much as
but
because of you.
But it's important. Like, it's important. And the way I see it is I'm spending this money to buy this gear that's gonna make me money in the long term, because when someone comes around, a lot of times a lot of stuff that I bought for the future. Like, I don't even need this light right now, but it's for a good deal. Yeah. And I know that if I get this light, I can do those type of projects.
Right.
And so I would get the light, or even like mics, or, you know, lav mics and all these other things. Like, I would just buy them, like future-proofing myself, because it's like, this is the type of stuff that I want to shoot. And if I want to do that, then I need to buy this stuff now so that I can get my foot in the door when that opportunity presents itself.
Well, I think with you too, what I like about your gear acquisition syndrome is that you understand the gear you're buying. I don't feel like you ever buy gear just to buy gear. You always you're like, oh, well, I'm buying this mic because the other one doesn't have 32-bit, this has 32-bit, or it has time code, or has all these things. Like, I always say, you know way more about the technicals than I do, and it's like, that's definitely your strongest point. And you actually make a lot of money and get a lot of jobs because of your knowledge of gear and because of the gear that you have.
Well, I wouldn't say I make a lot of money, but...
Well, but you're constantly booked. You know, like, you having that gear and understanding how to use that gear is what keeps you getting booked with these production companies that hire you out and stuff like that. So I think it's like, that's what's important too, is like understanding your gear is a skill in and of itself. One
of the things we wanted to talk about was like a purchase mistake that you made, like something you regret buying. Yeah. And I think that comes back to like what type of gear you need for what type of job. I think a long time ago when I first started, I went and bought like a newer shoulder rig.
Oh yeah.
I had like as it was like, oh, it's gonna make my camera look really cool, and I'm gonna be able, you know. And then I never used it because it wasn't convenient for the type of stuff that I was doing. At the time, I was just shooting music videos.
Right.
And so it was like, you know, sometimes like that would come in handy, but for the most part, you know, like I was like every other cliche music video artist, you know, gimbal, you know, the 360 roll, and then some handheld shots, and that was it. I didn't need the shoulder rig. You know, if I was shooting like a TV series or something along those lines, or I had a really heavy rig, then a shoulder mount would, a shoulder rig would make sense. But
let's talk about a gimbal. Actually, I'm glad you brought that up. I was thinking about this today. The fence that I sit on, I think the gimbal is the most commonly mistaken purchase that most people get. I think a gimbal is a phenomenal. I have one in my kit. You have one in your kit. Everybody does. I think the problem is people don't know when to use them and when not to use them a lot of the times.
Yeah, I think that too. Like I was definitely on the wave of like using my gimbal all the time. I would, bring out my gimbal all the time. I remember I sent one of the music videos I did to somebody for them to watch. They were on like live or whatever, and I remember them specifically saying like there's a lot of gimbal shots, and then at that moment I was just like, all right, I need to slow down on the gimbal stuff, and so I started doing shots on sticks and seeing how creative I can get. I would challenge myself that way, do more handheld stuff. But now I'm all rigged. My cameras are all rigged up, but gimbals are definitely like, for certain types of shots, you know what I mean? A lot of events that I shoot, they want gimbal stuff, like sweeping the room and all this stuff. And that makes sense. But then also like if you're getting candids of people talking and like then it's like take it off the gimbal, get some handheld 70 to 200. Move around, get some cool creative shots.
I think that weddings and real estate, and I would even say car videography, wherever that lands.
Weddings is like almost essential. Like
that's
I feel
what
like
I'm
you
saying,
have to have somebody there with a gimbal.
You have to.
In order to I guess not really. Not realistically, you really don't need somebody with a gimbal at a wedding, but you get so much better stuff. Because if you challenge yourself and didn't take a gimbal to a wedding, you could get some really good stuff.
I think
you're just not going to get those good walking shots, smooth,
and that's the
type of shots.
With weddings, there's so much motion that needs to be captured, and there's so much like intimacy between movement of the bride and the groom and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's like, if you come off that gimbal, I do agree you'll challenge yourself. I just think that unless it's like you're going for something specific,
it's the look. It's definitely the look.
It's the look.
Because if you can get really good shots, my first like shot idea comes to mind is like when the bride's like looking down her shoulder at her bouquet and he's got his forehead on her temple. Like that's a good shot. You can get that handheld and just like move a little bit. But I like a lot of movement. And so I like to sweep around them or I like to come in really close and then back out really fast. You're not going to get that handheld. And
especially too, because at weddings, you usually have like really nice landscape. You have the nice venues. You have really nice, everything's decorated.
Yeah.
And you're shooting everything 60 or 120. You slow it down, you get that parallax effect. Like it makes sense to shoot like that. I think unless you're specifically shooting a certain type of shoot for these weddings, you should have somebody on a gimbal and then, cameras on sticks on standby, because it's just, and same thing with real estate. Like you have to have a almost like you have to have a drone.
Real estate, you have to have a gimbal for sure.
And a gimbal,
you have to, unless they just want some locked off shots, which nobody in real estate wants realistically, because then they'll just get some photos.
Yeah, exactly.
They'll just get photos. Yeah, you have to have a gimbal. All the stuff that I do, real estate wise, gimbal for sure.
Yeah, I mean it's the only way to show like the grandscape of the houses and stuff. So
yeah,
that was just something I was thinking about. I think that a lot of people get sucked into gimbal everything, and like I know when I shoot a lot of these esports events, I see a lot of people running around on gimbals, and I think like it works. Like if there's great,
at an esport, like it just depends. It depends on like what they're going for. I feel like anytime I see somebody with a gimbal shooting esports, like I'm just like, why?
It doesn't make sense unless it's like establishing a shot, B-roll. Like unless you're like trying to, I'll get on the gimbal sometimes just to have variation for later.
How can you not get like some really good cinematic shots just handheld? You got to be quick. I know you got to be quick with these guys. Yeah. And most of the time, the stuff that I shoot is like documentary stuff.
Yeah.
And like the stuff that you shoot is like more of the cinematic stuff that they're using, like those slow-mo stuff. And you're always getting that handheld. And you're on an FX6 that doesn't have image stabilization.
No, there's no. I think that's like another. It's just like a big thing. Is like people don't understand the technology behind warp stabilization and editing. Not warp stabilization, but like the new AI stuff.
Yeah.
And then just like when you slow something down, I'm shooting at 60, so when I slow that down to half speed, 9 times out of 10, all those little handheld movements and shakes, they're either gone or they complement the motion. It's okay to have, steps and stuff like that in what you're doing sometimes. And like, again, for me, just like you say, it's like I'm in the action. Like,
I think like I mean I could say like that's shooting esports isn't pretty. It's not pretty. So really, what do you need a gimbal for? You know what I mean? You make it look cinematic, but it's not pretty. You don't need. You could literally like if they're walking, you can hold your camera and walk, and you're gonna get those steps.
Yep. And it's like, how do you can't like, it's so hard to vary yourself. It's so hard to get like a really low angle on like a fisheye or like, that's one of my favorite shots to get. Just grab the FX6, hold it down low like a camcorder with the fisheye, the 14, and shoot up and get this massive hero shot, or get the grand landscape. But it's also like you say, it's like when I'm shooting those situations, I'm looking for the fist bumps and stuff. So like I don't have time to be shooting on this guy and then have to turn it and bring it down and try to get it to look down and not, because when bad gimbal users, this is me, I'm talking about me right now, like they have that jerky, it's not nothing, it's not smooth.
That's just because you don't know how to balance your gimbal.
And I don't know how to balance my gimbal. I prefer not to use gimbals at all. But
yeah, because I've shot so much on a gimbal, I'm like really good at balancing my gimbal. But now I think now would probably be the best time to talk about what I wanted to talk about, which is that I got the phone call today that I'm shooting for FaZe at Worlds.
Oh,
Halo, dude.
Let's go! We're gonna be in Seattle together.
I know, right? That's so sick, dude. So they told me they're gonna take care of my flight and my hotel, and we're taking care of that this week. Honestly, I don't want to fly. I want to drive because I want to take all my I want to take a bunch of my taking this, right?
Yeah. So I've got the Nanic 936, and then
I don't know how you could be comfortable like putting that under the plane though. It's just lights, but like
it's everything. It's my camera bodies, lenses, everything. And I know a lot of people tell me to put it in my backpack, and actually I'll usually put my FX6 in my backpack.
You should, like, if you're flying, you camera and lenses should be in your with you on the plane, not underneath.
This is not something this is not advice you ever want to take from me, but I am terrible with my equipment. Like, I just assume it's gonna get where I need it. I do have an Apple tag on it and everything. Like, if it were to get lost, I'd know where it's at. But like, I throw stuff around, like I use my equipment, everything, and like it's not bit me in the butt yet, but it's going to eventually when I like break something or something gets lost. But I just think of it like that's why I made the investment in that case. That thing is rock solid, whatever. And so it's like maybe I have too much faith, but it's like I bought it to put it under the plane, to carry my lights, to carry everything I need. And so like
I honestly I want to drive though, because I want to be able to take my lights, my tube lights, which we forgot to turn on, by the way.
Oh,
it's cool.
Crap.
I know. No, it's cool. Don't even mess with it yet. Don't even mess with it. Oh,
look at that, guys.
Yeah. So it doesn't even look all that. It looks cool.
Yeah, it did look. It was.
But yeah, no, I noticed that halfway through, and so I was like, and I bet you guys didn't even hear the fan going. Because I know what fan. No, but that's, dude, I know. I was so stoked. I wanted to call you too. I was like, I want to call him, but we're going to be filming the podcast. So I was like, I got some good information to wait. So I was like, and then I almost forgot. So we're sitting here. I forgot we were talking about something, and then it just clicked, and I was like, oh yeah, do not forget that.
Do you shoot like equipment wise, do you shoot the same way on your equipment that you will like a wedding or corporate?
No. So So, well, I mean, my gear is constantly changing all the time. But I just got my third FX3. And that's because originally I have like my A cam and my B cam rigged out. They're both exactly the same. And then, my C cam, I had an FX30 at one point, but I got rid of that because I didn't really care for the Super 35 sensor, and I wanted something that was good at low light, because what I need is my A and my B cam to stay the same. I don't want to take them apart and everything. And what I was doing at weddings is I would take my A cam apart, and I'd be on a gimbal, and then at the end of the night I'd put it back together. So what I needed was a good gimbal cam, and my A7 IV isn't quite gonna cut it because it's not that good at low light, and it's crop sensor at 4K 60. So I need the full frame. And so I ended up getting a third one. That's now going to be my gimbal camera. But when I'm shooting esports, I'm just taking my rig. I'm taking my A cam. That's all I need is my A cam. I'll bring my B cam as well for interviews, like after the event. Yeah. And then I'm on primes for that on sticks, but most for the events, you see my rig last time. Yeah. I just have the monitor mounted off to the side rather than the top, and then I've got my XLR handle, which isn't even on my cameras. And then you're shooting for the Halo,
so I'm hired by a production company that is hired by HCS, Halo, whatever, and I am just there to capture the event. offload footage. The editor is making bumpers.
Yeah, that's crazy. How many videos he has to edit like throughout the day.
Yeah, and it's so crazy watching him edit the videos because he'll edit like 3 videos at a time, like bouncing back and forth, depending on the score, because it just depends on what team wins, and like the 2 videos will get scrapped and the other one will get used, and it's like it's got to be stressful. I couldn't even imagine like.
I hate editing, and that's why like I love doing the stuff that I do because I don't have to edit anything. I just shoot it, send it off, and that's it.
I have come around to like really enjoying the process of shooting something and handing off the footage and just like literally being done with it, never thinking about it again. But I like editing. I say that with an asterisk. It's like I like editing things that I like editing. You know, I'm sure you feel the same way. Yeah. So it's like
all the Instagram reels that I've been making. I like editing those. I like getting creative with those. Some commercials, like I've done some like commercials for like a roofing company and some other stuff. And then to me, I'm just like, this is easy. I can just knock this out because they're only looking for like a minute and a half because they want to be able to promote it on Instagram.
Exactly.
So I can just get through that really quick. I'm not having to like really tell a story because their script is telling that story. All I got to do is just get it to fit and throw it in B-roll. So I don't mind doing that type of stuff. That's easy.
Yeah, because they're very linear. It's like you just throw in B-roll.
The worst thing like would be for me would be like editing the documentaries that I'm shooting. When I watch them after they're done, I'm like, great job. Yeah, great job. Great job. I'm never like, what's that one shot that I spent a lot of time waiting for? Like that one shot where I was waiting for the logo to pop up. I'm never like, I guess I forget about that a lot. But when I watched the documentary after they won back-to-back,
dude, it's a lot.
That was
editing documentaries for esports is a lot. I've done it a few times, and like, I love it. Like if I had to edit anything, that's what it would be. Yeah. But as far as a piece of equipment that I regret, I don't think I have any that I just like been like, why did I spend money on that? Like there's obviously like little purchases throughout. Like if I could just compile all of them and get my money back, like I'd probably save some money. But I think the only like piece of equipment I'd be like, is like when I bought the Blackmagic, and it's like. Nothing against that camera. I think it's like seriously such a beautiful camera.
Let me guess. It wasn't the right gear for what you needed.
Exactly. Okay. So it wasn't the right gear. Best menu system I've ever seen. Beautiful, whatever. But like for me, like no autofocus is tough. It had no image stabilization. That was tough. Wasn't great on low light. Like it was dual ISO, but only up to 3200. I've been spoiled by 12,800 on the Sonys. And I still think it has the best color you can find on like this level market. But it was just like, I had all Sony glass, everything. And so love that camera. If I were ever to switch to like a brand new whatever, it would be all Blackmagic. But that was the only one. I was like really hasty to go buy one. Loved it. Tried to force myself into it and it just didn't work.
Yeah. There was a lot of times, like a lot of things I was contemplating on buying too. Like, what is it? Not a Steadicam. It's like the little handle.
I think it's a Steadicam, right? With the weights on the bottom?
The weights on the bottom. Yeah. Is that a Steadicam?
Yeah, it's a Steadicam.
Okay. I almost bought one of those a long time ago. And I'm glad I didn't because I probably would have never used it.
That's a completely different skill set.
Yeah. And that's where it comes back again, full circle, is like, I guess it's not that gear matters. It's just the right gear matters.
Right.
The right gear matters, whatever you want to shoot. A lot of times people are like, oh, like, should I get this camera? Should I get that lens? It's like, it all depends on what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Like for me, I do a little bit of everything. And so Sony is just like, it's just the right way to go.
Yeah.
Like I was on A7 S3s. I love the A7 S3. It's like my favorite camera I've ever had. Right behind the FX3 now. And that's just because only reason why I got the FX3 was because it had time code. Yeah, exactly. I was on some jobs where I needed time code. I didn't have it. And it was just like, well, you know, they just synchronized using audio, and it's like I should have been able to give them that. So now I got the FX3s. They all have time code,
which goes back to gear with a purpose. You didn't just buy FX3 because everybody was like.
And I don't use the time code on every single job. Right. But when I do, I can actually book that job because I have it.
Because it's subsequently making you money. Like you said a while ago, it's an investment. It's a future proof, and it's like. You're making money off the fact that you thought ahead of that. And again, you didn't buy the FX3 because all the reviews said to, or all because Instagram Reels showed beautiful footage of it. It's like, hey, I have a legitimate reason and a business purpose to buy this. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. So when I originally, back when I first started, not when I first started shooting, but when I was shooting, I think when I was on my Canon T7i, you remember, when I first moved out here to Dallas, I had my Canon T7i, and then I quickly switched over to A7 III. I had the A7 III, and I think I had that for about a year maybe.
You had it for a while.
I probably had it for about a year before I switched over to the A7S III when that came out. And I bought it like right before the FX III came out. And when I I think I got it, right when it came out, because I had the option of both cameras. And the only reason why I went with the A7S III is because I had an S in it. No. But I liked it, and I just thought like the FX III, that's cool, but I can take photos with the A7S III with the viewfinder. Like, and they were exactly the same cameras. I didn't need the XLR top handle. I was used to the body style on the A7S III, so I went with that. Had I known that they were going to give all these updates to the FX III, I would have probably gone that route. But because at the time I was getting rid of everything I had for just one camera, so I needed something that did photo and video. Yeah. But I'm glad I made that purchase and everything. But FX III is a great camera.
What about like a piece of gear that you like love, like changed the way you made film?
I would probably say my Nlights. For like, if I'm going back to like music videos, because like originally I go back and I watch them a lot, and I'm like, okay, this is like when my videos really changed, because like before I was like, I just had a 120D Mark II, or I would shoot like, using whatever light was available, and like I would kind of get creative with the 120D Mark II, with the grid and like just light them and have everything dark. But none of my videos had really like color or anything like that. And like, if they did, it was like that cheap RGB stuff that just so happened to be in a room where the artist was like, yeah, the room looks great. It's got all these colors. And it's like, dude, this is
like
trash.
The little light strips.
Yeah. So when I got the Nlights, that really upped my game. And I got those because of Films by Prophecy. Okay. So I did a shoot with Films by Prophecy one time. He had me come and like do BTS for him, some photos. And it was in the middle of nowhere. It was like when I first moved to Dallas too. And so like, he's like, yeah, come do some BTS, whatever. I was like, cool. I'm like excited to get into the music industry out here in Dallas, because I was in it heavy in California. Yeah. And like, I would still be here in Dallas, traveling back to California all the time. But when I was super excited to get into the music world out here with him, and he takes me to like some old abandoned warehouse, like, and like, you can't see nothing. So he's just walking around with his flashlight, lighting up the place, and I'm like, oh man, like I don't know this guy, like, and I'm like, dang, and like it was kind of, but it was cool. Like, he had some Nlight Pavo tubes, and then like he put me on game. He's like, yeah, bro, like these are so much cheaper, because at the time all I knew was about the Quasars, and those are crazy expensive. So he's just like, yeah, this is, these are the lights right here. He's like, don't tell nobody about them. This is probably like a couple years ago.
About these lights?
Yeah, those ones. He's like, yeah, don't tell nobody about them, blah, blah, blah. I was like, all right, bet. So, like, and then I ended up getting some. They were, I think I spent like $1,400 on them. It was like a big, that was a big purchase for me at the time.
Yeah, of course.
But they really upped my game.
Yeah. And how many did you buy?
4. I got the 4 kit, So, yeah, they really upped my game for music videos for sure. And I love playing with them. I love adding the color and everything. Like, you can go back and watch some of the videos on my YouTube channel. Like, you just see like basic daylight, whatever, maybe some nighttime, and then it's like colorful. And I was like, I'm the shit.
Yeah, dude.
I'm the shit. Yeah. But yeah, it was probably one of my favorite purchases back then. Well, I'll let you go, and then we'll like more recent. We'll do a more recent one too.
It's still so viable though. Like, those things are so viable. I have nothing RGB, and I think like it's definitely not a necessity at all. Like, if anybody tells you RGB is a necessity, no, they're lying completely.
Nope.
It's a flavor thing.
And even if you want color in your videos, like, you can rent them.
Renting gear, that's a thing I never do.
I don't rent gear, but you could.
Yeah, but you could definitely do that if you wanted to.
I don't rent gear because I feel like I just benefit more if I buy it.
That's my thought process, and it's like you don't have to go through the process of like booking it, going to get it, doing all that.
But I also think like at the same time, a lot of people could benefit from it. Like me, probably not. I mean, not to like, whatever. I spend a lot of time researching stuff before I buy it, so I know exactly what I'm getting into. Right. But a lot of people, they don't. They ask other people questions. They're like, hey, what type of camera do you think I should get? And they're like, oh, you should get the T7i. It's a great camera. And then they get it and they don't know what to do with it. And then like, it's not the camera for what they wanted to do with it. It's what that person would have done, So it's like, do your research, or if you're contemplating between something, go rent it and then try it out.
I actually hate that question. I hate when people ask me what kind of camera they should get, because like, I think right now it pretty much boils down to just buy a Sony camera. Like, and as far as features goes, you're safe. But like, I hate the question because it's like, okay, how much do you know about cameras? What's your process? What are you trying to do?
I think I would lead people in the same direction. Like I'd lead them towards Sony, and it's like, do you want to do photos? Do you want to do video? Do you want to do both?
Yeah.
Like, do you like? And then also like, it just depends on how knowledgeable they are, because like, you know, the A7 IV is a great camera, but are you considering that it does crop in 4K 60?
Exactly.
You know
exactly.
What I mean?
It's like, but you can't,
I'm considering that.
But it's not something you could just like riff off to somebody and they'll be like, "Oh, glad you told me all that." They're gonna be like, "I don't get it. What do you mean crop sensor?" It's like, but it's like, you know, that's where it started, because it's like I didn't know what that was when I bought the T6i. I didn't know it was a crop sensor. As I'm learning, I'm like, wait, what are these full frame things?
Yeah,
like,
my first camera I bought was a Sony A50-100, and it was because it flipped up.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, okay, this is cool. Like if I'm vlogging with my kids, I could show them, because that's the whole reason why I started video. And I got that camera. I filmed one video with it, and I returned it. I was like, this camera is crap. I don't like it. The menu system. Everyone complained about menu systems with Sony back then, but nowadays they're a lot better. But then I got that's why I went with Canon. But yeah, so back to what you were talking about just a minute ago. What's like one of the best?
I'm gonna have to say
early on.
Oh, early on.
Yeah, early on.
It's gonna be the A7S too.
Okay, well, what were you really filming before? Like when I was out filming a lot of music videos. Around that time, because when did you start film? Like when did you start shooting film? Like when did you start filmmaking?
I started in
whatever you.
2018, and to keep the story short, basically when I was working in maintenance, I was doing
2018.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
you started after me. Well, so for me, I've never touched a camera before. Like
maybe it's 2017.
I have, like, I knew somebody who had a camera, and I used to like taking the lens off, putting it on, like, super cool.
Yeah.
But I never had a camera before, so I like hopped into it 2017.
Yeah, I think I've been doing it professionally since whenever it's either 17 or 18.
Okay, I didn't start professionally until...
Yeah, I'm talking about professional, because I've been shooting for like 10 years as far as just like playing with cameras. Back in 2013 is when I first picked up a camera, and that was like making YouTube videos with my buddy.
Yeah, because I was going to say, like, that was before 2000.
Oh, yeah. Okay, if we're talking about like just when I was playing with cameras, 2013. Okay. But we're talking like when I started making money.
Professional. Yeah. What was the best investment you made around that time then?
Because at the time I was on the T6. Actually, at the time I was shooting Nikon. My buddy was letting me borrow a Nikon.
I almost made that mistake.
Yeah, dude.
Because the person I knew had a Nikon, like 3200 or something like that.
Yeah, it was like a D6.
And I was like, I know this is a good camera. I know it is. But then I did my research, man, and I'm so glad that I did.
And that's the thing, is like I almost went out and bought the camera he was letting me use, because I used it for like a year. And I think it was a Nikon D300 or D3000. I don't know the whole naming system.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had that, and then I guess if we're talking about just like straight off the rip, I took an entire paycheck. Me and my wife, girlfriend at the time, went to Best Buy and bought the Canon Rebel T6i that's sitting right there with that same exact lens right there, and it was like $960 something.
Yeah, that's about what mine was.
Yeah, bought it,
colored it and everything.
Yeah,
it's T5i.
Is it a 5i? Okay, so T5i, yeah. So yeah. And
I feel like this feels pretty. I mean, this feels pretty good for an early on camera, but I feel like they got a lot cheaper over the years. Like the T8i is. Have you ever seen the T8i? It feels super cheap.
Really?
Have you ever messed with like the new ones, like the R50 or the R100? I think they have. Dude, the thing is.
I haven't messed with anything except like an R5.
It's ridiculously small.
And they feel toyish. They always felt so toyish.
Canon's cameras do, man.
Yeah.
Unless
Even
you're
the R5.
Unless you're getting like a 1DX or like a R5, yeah. I mean, they're comfortable.
No, they have the big hand grips.
Yeah.
They're very nice, yeah.
Yeah, they're comfortable. I've never like got to mess with or like hold in my hand the R3, but I've always liked the idea of like a big body, like a 1DX or the R3.
Yeah.
I always wondered why Sony never came out with something like that. I'm like, they have the battery grips, but like the A1 would have been so sick.
If it was just,
like a big body.
Yeah,
like,
I agree.
You know, that rotating grip or whatever. That would have been sick.
Like the, what is it, 5D Mark II?
Yeah, probably, it probably wouldn't be the right camera for me.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah.
And that's the thing, is like, just because I'm talking Sony or whatever, it's like, just whatever's in your hand that works. Because at the time, like, I think I had that for like a year and a half or 2 years before I went to the Lumix G5 Micro Four Thirds sensor camera.
Oh, yeah.
But it was $700 and had 4K. And I was like, oh, this is it. Like, I'm about to make movies. But like, didn't last long on that. That was the hard lesson of learning. Like, oh, wait, I have lenses for this camera. Now I have to go buy lenses for this camera. So it's not just buying a body. I got to buy new glass. and then realized how much an investment that was. And then basically it all shifted to Sony once the A7S II came out, because I was obsessed with.
But you had the A7 III also, right?
No.
Or no, you never had.
I've never had that. I've only had that A7S II. And
wow. Okay.
yeah.
Steve had the. I know Steve had the A7 III.
Yeah.
And so that's why I went to that. Well, that's not why I went to it, but I went to that camera, the A7 III, because on my T7i, I was getting 1080-60, which was solid, and I shot everything in 1080-60 just in case. But when I switched to the A7 III, at the time, it was like, do I want to stay with Canon and get the R, or do I want to go with the A7 III? And I went with the A7 III because it had 2 SD cards slots, and then also it had 1080-120. That had 120 frames per second. And that was like, I remember at the time I was thinking like, I want 120 frames per second, but I don't want to have to switch all the time.
Yeah.
But then the A7S III came out.
Which is so funny because the A7S III came out and they
But I didn't shoot everything 120 then.
Well, no, I don't think
I was still with the mindset of just shooting everything 24.
Yeah. Well, they boasted the 4K 120. I was like, that's the greatest thing I've ever heard in my life. Bought the camera and I've never used it.
I was hoping for 4K 60. I was like, just give us 4K 60 and I'll be happy. And then 4K 120, I was like,
this is great. Which, if you really do think about it, though, that is impressive. That's why I say Sony's just so far ahead of it. I think they're starting to really kind of like mess up though, because they're dropping a camera so much. But
yeah, it's because they're having a camera for every single.
They're flooding the market, is what they're doing.
Extremely.
But it's not working, at least in my opinion. I think it's a little goofy, but I'm not a
because you got like the Z, and I've lost track of a lot of them.
That's the thing.
I know like kind of what's in my realm, the FXs and the A7S and the Rs. But when it goes to like the ZV E10 or the EV1, I don't know which is the newest one that just came out.
The thing that's crazy to me is that when the A7S III came out, it was like the unicorn, the holy grail. It was like, there's no camera like this.
And I couldn't believe, like, I felt the same way. Like, it was the unicorn camera. It was like, it's never going to come out. And then it did. And then when it did, it was like, they didn't even care about it.
It was like straight to the FX3 and after that.
Yeah, it was just like, here's the A7S III that everyone's been dying for.
Yes.
But we don't care about it.
And like even when it came out, I was fully expecting it once I got it to like brick on me, overheat, anything. I was like, dude, there's got to be something wrong with this camera, and I still have yet to find anything wrong with that camera. I think that is.
I feel like it's like, I don't know, when I make a video or something and I like sit there and I watch it all the time, like, wow, I did a great job like filming that. Sony was just like, all right, on to the next project.
Always,
it was like such a great camera that they were just like, all right, next one.
And I think that's why like I'm a little more.
They could have sat on that for a long time. Like
with A7S III?
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Does Canon have any 4K 120 cameras out right now?
I couldn't tell you.
I don't think so.
I have no clue.
I don't think the R5 does.
It probably overheat.
And it has a record. I know for a fact it has a record limit.
Yeah, there's a 30-minute record limit still.
And they just had a firmware update, and everyone was hoping for like at least an hour. Dude. Time limit, but it's like, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that because sometimes I film events where they want me on sticks and they just want the stage like one wide, one tight, and then I can't be having to worry about one more thing.
It doesn't make sense
because a lot of times, a lot of stuff that I shoot is I'm doing photo, I'm doing video, I'm doing audio, I'm doing Sometimes I'll have to do lighting and stuff, and it's like now I have to worry about a 30-minute time record limit.
Like it just doesn't make any sense that's even like in 2023 a thing that's happening on cameras. It's just like it's bad. But
especially with what Sony's doing, it's like if you're trying to keep up with Sony, like you can't be. Yeah, you got to figure something else.
Canon
out.
was the guy. Like Canon was like the OG on the block that everybody like went to, and then the new kid on the block, Sony, stepped in and. I really thought that it would have like made Canon like perk up and like really like make them butt heads. And I wish it would because it would push Sony to have to be more. We want competition. That's great. I want the next Canon camera to be just like the next best thing we've ever seen, right? Because then now Sony has to do that one. It's only good for us. But it just seems like Canon's fallen flat and Sony's fallen complacent. Wait, I don't think I ever talked about the gear I love. That I bought. I was gonna say like I could say the FX6, but that's like a giveaway. I think the main one that surprised me was the Tamron.
I would say the FX6 for you is definitely like your new best purchase because of like the type of work that you do.
Yeah,
you film esports, so having that pre-record is super handy.
Yeah.
And every time I'm filming for Phase, like I'm just like, I wish I had pre-roll.
Right.
I don't want to bring a Ninja. I like my small HD
Yeah.
monitors. I spend a lot of money on my small HD monitors.
Yeah.
But if the FX6 had pre-record, that would be sick.
Yep.
But I could see like why that would be a really good purchase for the type of work that you do.
And it was something I wanted so long, the built-in ND filters and the form factor of it all. Like I'm very much like, I want like quick, but even when I edit, I think I enjoy editing because like I'm a gamer. And so like all my keybinds are set up to like WASD and around there, like where I game. So like for me, it's like my hand never moves to cut and select and delete and all that. So it's like that camera basically gives me all the macro functionality that I want to be able to like swap through on this hand. But as far as like, I would say the FX6 is like the number one, and it probably is, but like that's kind of a given. I think the biggest surprise purchase I bought is that Tamron 35 to 150.
Dude, I know. And
Dude.
I've been doing a lot of research on it because I think, what is it, Samyang?
Yeah,
Samyang has a version as well.
Yeah.
Same exact lens. It's just a little different. And I'm thinking of getting that version because every time I see yours and you're trying to like zoom, I know it's like, it's rough, right? It's hard.
It's got a little bit of a stiff zoom, which is kind of nice. A little bit, but it's like, it's never stopped me from just punching when I want to. Like I wouldn't say it's like that stiff, and it has a flywire focus wheel, I believe. So
I guess it wouldn't matter. I was thinking like if I was gonna throw it on a gimbal and have like the zoom, so I can use my focus motor to zoom. But I don't think I'd ever like do 35. I like 24 to 70. I like my 24 to 70.
24 to 70 is nice. Like I love that lens mainly for the 24. But like when I shot that football game yesterday, I was like, dude, if I had my 35 to 150 right now, like I'd be killing this thing because 35 is still wide enough to get like nice big shots ish, and then that 150 would have just came so in handy to get in the action while they're on the field. And so like, I just realized every time I go to the 24 to 70, 24 is great. 70 is just never enough anymore. Yeah. And like that F2 at 35 on that Tamron is like, it's so crispy. It's just so good. But the autofocus isn't the best. And so that's like the only downside to it. But.
So the FX6 is like your most recent purchase that you...
I would say like that was just like the most recent purchase that is just like changed the way I filmmake, has upgraded me and the ability to what I can do, but it doesn't surprise me like the Tamron did. The Tamron was kind of a risky like Hail Mary, like let's see if this thing pans out because it sounds too good to be true. Like for esports, you know?
Yeah. So I would say my most recent like purchase would be primes.
Oh yeah, you bought the 85, right?
I have the 85 and the 35.
Yeah.
And 35 1.2 and the 85 1.4, and that's
what brand?
Sigma.
Sigma, yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Sigma,
I have all Sigma lenses except for the 70 to 200 2.8 Mark II.
Which that one just got announced.
No, well it's been out for a couple months. It's the 70. No, the Sigma. So I just heard that the Sigma's coming out with the 70 to 200 2.8
that's awesome.
E-mount. They're supposed to be announcing it on the 5th. Oh, okay. So, and that's just based on Sony rumors, like Sony rumors said something like that. So I'm really hoping because I had the 70 to 200 the EF mount that I would adapt to my Sony. I loved that lens. It was like 4 pounds, dude. It was heavy.
Yeah,
and so that's why I switched because I would have to have like, what is it called? A lens mount for that because I would be worried that it was going to break or, but now the Sony version, the 2.8 Mark II, it's so light. It's as light as my 24 to 70.
That's so nice.
And it's a great lens. Yeah, I know. So I love it, but I'm hoping that the Sigma's at a good price. I could just get rid of my Sony and get 2 of those possibly.
And hopefully they won't be white lenses. I don't know why they do that.
I don't mind it. It's cool. It's fine. It's fine. I did like the Sigma, the 7200 because it was black.
Yeah.
It matched all the other ones.
Yeah.
It was just fine. But I think like when somebody sees a 7200 on my camera and it's a big black one, they're just like, oh, it's probably a Tamron or something, some cheap knockoff. Right. Whatever. But it did the job. Great autofocus. It was just heavy. It was just freaking heavy, man. And so when I finally got to test out the Mark II, the Sony version, I loved it. And I was like, I'm getting this.
Yeah, when I played with yours, I was like, yeah, this thing is sick. And that's what I was debating getting just because, like, everybody knows how good the 7200 is. Mm-hmm. And I used one at a college Rocket League esport event I did. And on the A7S III at low light, 2.8, all that, like, super fast autofocus. Just, like, it was crazy how in the action I could get without bothering the players.
I like to say I only use it for certain jobs, but I feel like now I'm thinking about it. It's like The only time I don't use it is like when I'm doing interviews.
Yeah, it's like
I'm doing interviews. I have a 35 and an 85, the 1.2, 1.4. And like I said, that's probably my best purchase recently that I made, because I was like an advocate of like, just get a zoom lens.
Yeah.
Get a good, you know, get a fast zoom lens, like 2.8, you know, get a 70 to 200, get the 24 to 70, or get the 16 to 35, because now you have a couple lenses in one, like you can zoom and stuff. And I was just like, there's no reason to get a prime. But then once I finally got one, and I was like, oh, like now I see why people like primes. Like, it looks so good.
I do think zoom lenses, if that's like an early purchase, like depending on the equipment you have.
Yeah, if you have to, if you're, what are you shooting? Right? That's the first question. What type of stuff are you shooting? Get a zoom. Get a zoom, and then
because you're going to cover a lot more ground with a lot less of an investment.
Exactly.
With like a 24 to 70, man.
If your first lens was a 35 1.2, it's like you can only shoot. You're limiting yourself. You can only shoot 35. Yeah, those photos will look great, but you're limiting yourself a lot.
And people always say like, oh, with the prime, it forces you to get in the action. But like on a wedding, I can't get here on the bride. You know, it's like
sometimes you have to be able to like get reach. You have to be able to reach far.
Yeah.
Or you know, you back up or whatever, but like, or you can't move really. You know what I mean? You're trying to get a shot that's way over there.
Yeah.
You bought a 35. It's
so
like
what lenses do you keep in your kit? You got.
I keep everything. I keep all my lenses in my kit.
Yeah, but which one? What's your focal lengths? You got 1, 2, 3.
So I have 2 24 to 70s.
You have 7 lenses.
I have 2 24 to 70s, and they're on these ones. And that's just because for this type of thing, I've done interviews where there's 2 people talking to each other, and I want the focal length to be exactly the same. And then I've got a 14 to 24 that I can throw, like just like this FX. That one's yours, but I bought that one because you had it, and I loved it because I was contemplating the 16 to 35 or the 14 to 24. I like Sigma. I went with Sigmas, and it's just it's 14 to 24, then 24 to 70, 70 to 200. So it just made sense to me to cover the whole realm, but. Yeah, so this is exactly the type of setup that I would do for an interview.
Right, exactly.
I would come in a little, I mean, I don't think I'd be that wide.
Yeah, this is pretty wide.
And I'd probably be a little bit more off to the sides for like, you know, like a corporate type of interview.
Yeah.
So that's why I got those 2. So I have the 2 24 to 70s, I have the 14 to 24, and then I've got the 70 to 200, and then I have the 2 primes. I have the 35 and I have the 85, but then I also have a 35 anamorphic. And I'm going to get the 75 pretty soon. Because I want to be able to film some interviews, anamorphic, and then get some good B-roll type of stuff. I want to film some like documentary type of stuff.
The anamorphic is fun. That is a fun lens. I would love to get one eventually, but again, I'm just not in a position right now. That's like another thing is like knowing, like you see a piece of gear you want, but you got to tell yourself like, do I need that? Like I don't need a Sirui 35 mil anamorphic lens. I don't need that.
The way I see it though is I don't need it, but if I get it and I can easily turn around and sell it.
Well, that's the thing is like, but you're in a different position where it's like you don't need it, but you're in a position where it's like I can get that and it doesn't hinder me. Like it's not hindering me from making a purchase I should be making. It's like when I bought the F6, it was like, okay, this is something I have to think about. Like, yeah, this is a good investment. Like, will I ever have 6-channel input? Probably not. But I got to think about it as like I do have that as an option. I do have 32-bit float. I do have timecode now, and it's like. I don't have time code yet, but just like you were saying earlier, it's just like...
See, that's almost like I would categorize that in the mistakes that I made is I went with the Zoom F3 first.
Right.
Because it was smaller, and it was just like, you know, it was just better to have. I was like, I'm just going to have this because it's 32-bit float, everything that I need. But I wasn't thinking long-term because time code wasn't even on my radar at that time. And so when I got the FX3s, because I needed time code... The F3 only has time code through Bluetooth, and you have to have an Atomos Blue sync. And it was just like, I don't want that. I want Tentacle. I want Tentacle sync. I have the Tentacle Track E recorders, and they're all 32-bit float, time code all together. I do it from my phone. So then I had to go get this, you know, and so,
But you still have the F3.
I still have the F3 because it's convenient for weddings. I don't have to bust out this.
That is true.
This 6-channel thing and and running weddings. I'm just used to it. It's just boom. The buttons are really quick. I actually like the F3 a lot better than I like the F6.
No, I would love to have that. So Tascam, please give us the F6, but like make it F4.
Tascam though.
Who's
Zoom?
Oh, Zoom. Give us the F6, but make it F4. So if you can only have 5 items in your camera bag.
Oh, that's a good question. That's a good question. 5 items. Well, obviously you need a camera.
Yep.
You need a lens. I'm not gonna count like batteries or like SD cards and stuff, right?
No.
So yeah, you need a camera. You need a lens. So I would have Are you asking like what type of camera?
Yeah, what
type
camera,
of lens?
what lens?
I would have the FX3 with 24-70 for sure.
That's a good one.
And then are we counting tripod? Like I need a tripod. I need
5 items.
Shit. Okay. I need sticks. I'm probably just gonna run the one cam. So one camera, one lens. That's already 3.
Yeah.
I need a light.
Need audio.
And I need yeah, that's rough. Well,
you can make a tripod out of anything.
I will get so I'll probably run a Rode NTG5.
Okay, that's a good one.
Because then I can makeshift the boom similar to what you've been doing lately. Just boom it and just plug it right into the camera. That's my audio right there. So I picked the camera, lens.
So the FX3, the 24-70.
Yeah, sticks.
Tripod.
That's 3. A light. I'd probably go 300X if I can. I mean, is no budget.
Just 5 items.
I mean, what they just came out with a 1200X.
Yeah, sure.
You
just like
whatever. I would most likely choose an aperture light.
Yeah.
Something bicolor because I don't like having to mess with gels or anything like that. And then I'd probably go with like an NTG5 and then just direct because we're not talking about cables or SD cards and stuff like that. So
no, like anything.
That's what I would do, and that's mainly just because of the fact that I love shooting interviews.
How would you mount the light though?
So now we're getting technical. Oh, what would your 5s be?
It'd be the FX6.
Yours is a lot easier because you're not filming interviews. Like I'm thinking of because I like shooting interviews, so I'm thinking like, what do I need to film an interview?
Well, let's say if I had to film an interview, like let's say it's just like
if we're talking about esports.
Let's just say it's 5 items.
Let's just say esports.
Okay,
let's say we're filming esports, like an esports documentary.
I don't even need 5 items.
Yeah, I don't think I need. I can get away with 4.
I need an FX6 and a 35-70.
Probably the same thing.
Or 35 to 150.
I'd probably get a couple different lens options.
Yeah.
That's probably what I would do.
I think I would throw in a tripod just because why not, and then have a good the NTG5 mic, and I guess that stupid monitor. Is someone on I was reading something on Reddit on the filmmaking Reddit page the other day, and this guy was complaining. He made a post complaining about he was working with these old dudes, and they had like crappy tripod, old camera, cheap lights.
But is it a crappy tripod if it's lasted them 20 years?
And so that's the thing. And so like everybody was commenting like, yeah, you're clearly immature. Like you don't understand. Like because he was mad. He was like, I shoot better than these guys. I have better equipment. Blah blah.
You just have newer equipment.
You have newer equipment.
It looks good, but theirs has lasted. Yours isn't going to last them as long as theirs has.
Well, and like to the side of business, like a lot of people are making the point, like, yeah, you may have better equipment, but they have a better salesmanship of themselves. Like clearly, what they're doing is making them money. Why do they need to change? They're not obsessed with the latest pixels. He's like, they probably don't even like watch YouTube videos or anything. Like that is a job.
It's probably because like the type of stuff that they shoot doesn't require them to have the A7R5 with 45 megapixel or whatever it is. They don't need that.
Yeah, they get their job done. They get their clients. They make their money.
Still shooting on a 5D Mark II or whatever it is, that they're shooting with.
And like we could get into it like maybe in another podcast, but something I definitely do think is that the move to like needing better gear all the time is because of YouTube influencers. I definitely think it's a problem.
Well, but also everything's moving really fast. Like when I first started, I feel like when I first started filming, like it was like 4K was like just starting to be like the norm. And so I was like getting in at 1080 and I had the argument, 1080 is great. You don't even need 4K. Yeah. But now like 4K is the norm. Yeah. And like there's these Canon cameras and some, the Sony A7R5, I think has an 8K as well. Yeah. It's like, it's not normal, and we're like, 4K, but eventually that 8K is going to be the norm, and anyone shooting on 4K is getting left behind. Yeah. So the only thing everything's moving so fast.
Rapidly. I do feel like the jump from 720 to 1080 was massive, and everybody adopted it.
Before my time.
The jump from 1080 to 4K, I don't think has been well adopted. Like I don't have 4K monitors. Our phones aren't 4K. I don't have a single 4K monitor in here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, dude, like cameras especially are moving so fast that like even like our computers can't keep up with it. I remember like getting the A7S III and being like, I can't wait. I had just bought a new laptop to handle my A7 III footage because I edit on a laptop because I was always on the go. I've always been on the go. I've never gotten a PC. When I got the A7 III, I had that. I was struggling to edit videos, and I remember I did like a really heavy like effect video. And I had bought Red Giant, right? Red Giant.
Yeah, Universe.
And I did Red Giant some effects on this video, and it broke my computer. I had blue screen. I think I called you. I might have called you, and I was like, I had blue screen. I couldn't figure it out. So I was broke at the time. I told my girls, like, listen, I need $1,200. I'm gonna buy this laptop. I'm gonna pay you back. And so she came through. She bought me the laptop, and it was an Asus. I got an Asus. I have an Asus right now, and I've had it ever since the A7 III. And the A7S III came out. Couldn't handle handle the footage.
So now you got a proxy,
and it still couldn't. And so I would stay up. I would come home. I would dump footage. I would make, and then I'd like leave my computer running all night. Doing proxies until you put me up on game about shooting proxies in
internal
camera. And I was like, I don't know if I could do that. And so I was worried that it was going to take up a lot of space.
Didn't take up any somehow.
It doesn't take up any space.
It's like magic. I don't get it.
I don't get it either. But it doesn't. And so I shoot proxies on everything now.
Yeah.
I just take them right out, just rename them really quick using power rename, and it's so clutch. And but yeah, dude, like
you learned how to use your gear.
Cameras are like so far ahead of the time. Like I know Apple's making really good products. Like I have an Android. I'm really thinking about switching to the iPhone 15 because of USB-C.
Yeah, dude, that looks incredible.
I know it's got like
the ProRes
MagSafe and everything like that. I've always been so against iPhones because of the charger. I have a USB-C for everything. I don't have anything else, nothing else, and I just don't want another charger I have to worry about. Now it's got USB-C, so I might make that switch. AirDrop, FaceTime, like everything. Please. Like there's so many things. There's so many reasons why I should.
It'd be so nice.
But now, like I have a Samsung watch, I have Samsung earbuds, I have a PC at home, or a laptop, but I have Windows. So now I have to invest in this whole new ecosystem. And relearn it.
Yeah, you got to get off that.
Yeah, I think
get on the Apple wave.
I might.
I think you have to
pretty soon.
It'd be nice to see the blue bubble. Every time I send you a photo, I have no idea if you got it. I'm like, well, I'm just going to pray to God that he received that.
I probably haven't. I don't think I've ever gotten a photo from you.
Well, that was my thought. I was really close to going out and buying that camera or buying the iPhone. And I started thinking, I was like, but when would I actually do that? Like maybe if I was traveling, but like, am I going to go through the process?
Yeah.
Like that kind of takes away, like with the vlogs and stuff, it's like, well, that just takes away from the whole idea that they're quick and easy.
Yeah.
Like now I got to color grade my vlogs. Like now, and it doesn't have the same appeal. So I don't know. I think it's for the like Instagram purists and like those guys.
I'll tell you what though, the type of videos that you guys are making, like I'm saying you guys is like because there's only so many of you guys that are actually making those type of videos. Is I feel like vlogs were like way up here. Like people were going out of their way to make these crazy good vlogs, and then like the quality of them really dropped.
Right.
Not to say like that your videos are bad quality, but like you're not taking the time to be like, oh, let's shoot this in S-Log and do this. You're just like, let me just show you what I'm freaking shooting with. Let me show you behind the scenes stuff. And you're just like, I'm going to talk. The information is more important than me taking the time to hook my gimbal up to my phone and
that's the thing, is like, because it's unimportant. And when you put me on Moorfield, it was like, at first I was like, yo, this is so goofy. Like this guy's walking around the phone. Like he's a filmmaker. What's he doing?
The knowledge there is so.
Then you start watching him, and then what? Really,
but the thing is, imagine if you were doing that and you did put a little bit more, like you were like. You had a higher definition camera and we were color grading it or whatever, then it would be a lot.
But then the thing is, like, it starts to take away from the whole point. And so, like, for me, it's like,
you're right.
If I'm setting up this thing,
realistically, how much better is it really?
It doesn't. And you got to think about it from a client's point of view. It's okay. Like, no client has ever looked at me weird for pulling out my phone and like grabbing a quick shot on my phone. But if I'm like.
And usually that's what I do. I'll pull out my phone and I'll put it in Pro Photo because it's a little better. Yeah. And I'll take some like behind the scenes of like the camera with them talking to it or whatever.
Yes.
And I'll send it to them so they have some like BTS stuff. But like, I kind of would want to get into like the type of stuff that you're doing, like the vlogs where I'm just like showing the stuff that I do. But a lot of cases I can't. So.
But I think when I started watching Moorfield stuff, like the value was there. But I think I personally ended up liking it more on the phone because it was like, no, this is real. Like, this guy is not fluffing anybody. It's real. And I think, like, when vlogs first came around, that's why everybody liked it. It was like, no, this guy's literally just, like, filming his day, and that there's no fluff. Then, as it progressed, and everybody started buying better cameras and then adding scripted moments and all this, then it became like, oh, I don't trust any vlogs now because, like, this become a production. And now I think it's kind of like tapered back, at least in our little subculture. It's kind of just like,
when I first got into shooting videos, it was like I was on the bandwagon. I got the Gorilla Pod. I had the Rode mic on the thing. And I didn't vlog. I didn't vlog. Like I had the whole vlog set up and I didn't vlog.
Right.
So like the right gear matters. It's the right gear for what you need. So I guess that's like a whole wrap of this episode is does gear matter? And I think the answer is
as it always is.
The right
Depends on you.
Yeah, the right gear matters. That's what matters. It's the right gear for
I think
you.
maybe giving a piece of advice for gear. Like my piece of advice would just be like build it in steps. Buy the camera, then buy the lens.
Work towards what you want to do. Like,
yeah.
I guess, well, for me, I was filming a lot of music videos, and I thought that was the route that I was going to go for my entire,
life,
video career. Yeah. So if you want to film weddings, then get a gimbal. Yeah. Get a camera that does 4K 60. If it's going to have a crop, then get a good lens for that. If you're going to shoot interviews, then try work towards getting 2 cameras with some primes, because that really helps with your interviews. If you're doing esports, like
get a zoom. You're gonna want to be flexible.
Get a zoom for sure.
Don't get a gimbal.
Just depends. Get the right gear for you. Work towards the type of stuff that you want to do. I never honestly thought that I was gonna be working towards like filming interviews, but filming interviews, I love it, dude. I love being able to like set up the lights and the audio, and get my frame and do all that type of stuff. So, but yeah, this is the Film Club podcast. Let us know if you guys have any ideas for the next episode. We'd love to get some input from you guys and see, what you guys want to hear, what you guys want us to talk about. We definitely need some ideas. We're just starting this, and so I don't think we have a schedule right now. We'll probably try to work towards that if this kicks off. But
yeah, we're both pretty busy.
We're just gonna kind of.
But we definitely want to talk about subjects in the filmmaking community that like maybe others might stray away from, or give them more in depth. I definitely want to talk about AI eventually. I want to talk about YouTube filmmakers. I just want to talk about a whole bunch of stuff that maybe could teeter on controversial a little bit, but I
want to get some guests on here.
Oh, for sure.
I don't know if we'll be able to get guests like in person or like we'll get them remote, but
probably both.
Yeah, I definitely want to get some guests on here. I want to talk to all kinds of people in the film industry, gaffers.
Yeah.
Audio guys.
People in the club.
Yeah, exactly. Anybody that fits in the club.
Yeah.
I want to be able to get their input and figure out we could definitely get learn some things from them
for sure.
And so I think that'd be really cool. So yeah, let us know what you guys want to know for the next podcast. Let us know any guests you guys have in mind that you guys want to see on the podcast, and we'll definitely work towards that. And we out.
That's it. Drop the mic.